an indication as to whether we included or excluded as smallholder farmers. But most importantly, the bill says in very clear terms, when the minister acts, he must bear in mind the legitimate rights of who? Of the commercial seed companies, of the holders of rights. There's no mention of South Africans' food sovereignty, security, but it's very clearly mentioned that when you exercise your right, Mr. Minister, to exempt certain people from this bill, you must take into consideration our rights as the holders of breeders' licenses. In addition to that, under certain circumstances, the minister can say, Nolene, you exempt with your pomegranates, you can propagate and you can sell. But that profit you're going to make on the juice, you have to share with the license holder. And don't forget that the company is the license holder for 30 years. So the period of time that I'm going to have to keep paying them could be 30 years. If I'm breaching it in year, could be 29 years if I'm breaching their rights, if I'm infringing their rights in year one. So the minister, just to repeat, must ensure that the interests of the breeder are safeguarded. The bill also gives the obligation to enforce, to police and enforce the rights in this act. So basically, the state must take our limited resources and they must ensure that as South Africans we don't break the rights of multinationals who are sitting in Europe or in America. Our resources, our tax money must do that policing. If your neighbor owes you money or your neighbor throws dirt in your yard, can you tell the state, look, you must sue them now because it cost me X amount to pick up all the rubbish in my yard, or I'm losing interest on the money my neighbor owes me? What's the difference? It's private rights. When you have private rights and you have issues with people breaching your private rights, you can spend your money and go to court for a long time. Why is it an obligation of the state to enforce those private rights? But the bill is making it possible. With the 1976 laws that have to be changed, there's no argument. There's space for it to be changed. We could have engaged in a radical transformation process in respect of agriculture with these new laws. But instead, we're going back. We're going backward in a way that's very hard to believe that a post-apartheid state would choose to do that to us. On the plant improvement bill, the situation is no rosier. The bill makes it very clear that it's the formal agricultural system that must dominate, and will be dominated by multinational commercial seed companies, because it even has a provision in it that says you can use an agent. If you're from overseas, you can use an agent to apply for your license in South Africa.
Oh, gosh.
They also require, as I've already said, this promotion of genetic uniformity. I don't know, no two people probably in this room look alike. Why we would want our potatoes to all look the same? They want us to have potatoes that are twins throughout the, I don't know what you'd call 100 potatoes all looking the same, but that's what they want. And with that genetic uniformity comes the destruction of biodiversity, comes the inability of seeds to adapt to local conditions. What you've been doing over the years is saving seed, and those seeds adapt to your local conditions, so they become drought resistant. With the kind of seeds and the uniformity that they're looking for, we're not going to get that. The bill also imposes massive costs for certifying the seed. So say you did have a deep-seated interest in becoming a seed breeder. Basically, you wouldn't be able to afford to register to become a seed breeder, because the obligations they place on you to certify you and to test that your seeds are uniform is massive. It becomes completely unaffordable for most. This is also the bill that says, under no circumstances can you sell seeds that aren't registered to you. You have to buy it from the registered breeder, right? Do you know what sell means? How does the bill is defined sell? It includes exchanging. So even if you don't get paid, it doesn't mean you didn't sell. So seed saving and exchange is vetoed by this bill. The possibility of developing community seed banks, completely not possible if this bill goes through as it stands. The bill says, well, actually, as a small farmer, you can save seeds and you can use them, provided they for private and non-commercial purposes. What does that mean? So you can't give it to members of your community, you can't give it to your local your local school, your pumpkins. You wouldn't be able to give to your local school because that's not private. Now you're engaging in a public action. Non-commercial, why would we want to go through, and you know better than anyone what the effort it takes to engage in farming. Why would you want to grow food and not either exchange in the form of exchanging with neighbors or sell it? In terms of this act, it's not going to happen. Or in terms of this bill, it's not going to happen. It can't happen. That's the first part of the presentation.